Coming up on The World Today, Florida governor launched 2024 presidential bid on Twitter. Outside and to other stories now, 17 people have died in Hammanskraal, north of Pretoria in South Africa, following a cholera outbreak in that community. The National Institute of Communicable Diseases, NCID, declared a cholera outbreak in the country in the month of March after 6 cases and 1 fatality were recorded. Addressing members of the media in the area on Monday, the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo, said a formal investigation into the Hammanskraal cholera outbreak will be instituted. A South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samusa, reports.
This is why Hammanskraal in Pretoria is in the news. 100 people in the area had cholera symptoms in the previous week, and 15 people confirmed dead. Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation David Mahlobo says a command center comprising multiple departments, including the police and the South African National Defence Force, has subsequently been established as part of the government's response to the outbreak.
It's not that we wanted to be able to do investigation over investigation. I explained there are 3 systems there. There's a system of Randward, there's a system of Mahalisward, but there's a system that is managed by Tshwane itself. If you look at the 2 systems, because the water that is provided by the water boards, we oversee them. If, let's say, the water was contaminated in the main pipeline from Randwater and Mahalis, this incident of this outbreak will be affecting the entire Tshwane.
There is, as we speak, a delegation of deputy ministers that are visiting the area to assess the situation, engage the community and various other stakeholders, and to see what other measures and interventions can government put in place in containing that outbreak. There has been communication warning people about the consumption of water in the area.
Despite government's efforts, the people of Hammanskraal are unhappy. They say the problem did not start today. Julia Rabombo, a resident who survived cholera, shares her experience.
It began last Saturday. I experienced stomach cramps, vomiting, and I felt dizzy most of the time. Then I went to the Jubilee District Hospital. The queue was long and everyone had the same challenge. However, I received my medication. I'm not quite fine now, but I'm grateful to have survived.
40-year-old Sipho Kumalo, not his real name, says they have discussed this matter with local government countless times, but the government has turned a blind eye. He took us around the area.
The first time they knew it was going to happen, they found the structures about to deteriorate. They built new structures on top of the deteriorated structures. They put in new pipes, all from this section of Kanana, Hammanskraal West. When it blocks because of load shedding, when the lights are gone, the pumps can't pump waste. When the lights come back, the pumps get blocked.
Meanwhile, the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, NICD, has ordered all laboratory employees to test patients for cholera if they present a single symptom of the disease. Ultimately, we are here because of poor service delivery. Government failed to provide adequate drinking water for citizens. And now they're telling me that they've lost confidence in government processes. Well, I'm told that later this week, there will be a shutdown here in Hammanskraal. From Pretoria, South Africa, outside the Jubilee District Hospital, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Well, let's get back to Innocent Samosa, our correspondent in South Africa, to give us more on this. Hello, Innocent. Good to see you.
Hello, and a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for having me.
All right. Give us the latest update on the cholera outbreak in South Africa.
Yeah, so the Gauteng Department of Health issued a statement today. In fact, they provided an update with regards to the Hammanskraal cholera outbreak. And we understand now that the death toll has now gone up to 17, up from 15 deaths. And we understand that also they also speaking about the fact that there's around 26 cases of in the laboratory. That's what they say. That's what the department is saying. But also some patients and had to be moved from the district hospital, the Jubilee District Hospital, simply because the hospital is quite small. It cannot really house many patients. The hospital has seen around 165 people who had similar conditions. They had a challenge of stomach cramps, and they had vomiting, or they were also vomiting. So they had moved 18 patients. These are patients who are living on chronic, they're taking chronic medication. So they had to move them to other facilities in and around the province.
But what are health authorities saying regarding this outbreak? What's the immediate reaction and things to at least solve this challenge at the moment?
Indeed, and in fact, they said that they put together some 100 and, just to be quite correct, they said they've put around 150 million rand to actually mitigate this cholera outbreak. But I can tell you now, and that this particular issue, it has left the Department of Health, the Department of Water and Sanitation exposed for many respects, because residents, as you have witnessed in that clip, they're telling me that they've lost confidence in government. In fact, they say that they've raised this issue countless times with government, telling them to come and sort out this issue, but they feel that government has initially turned a blind eye. So it is sad, the fact that people had to die in order for them to essentially put together structures and put together monies to deal with this issue. So as it stands, they say that they're going to use this money. My hope is that I just wish that this 450 million rand is not going to be looted in, but also our citizens are not happy. The minister in the presidency, Vincent Magwenya, I put it to him to ask whether or not the president will intervene in this issue to try to build some sense of stability, equality, and local governance, because we find ourselves here, and because of poor service delivery from local government, there's been a lot of squabbles between different political parties in the council, whereby they don't want to work together. As a result of them not wanting to work together, it now affects service delivery. So I asked him whether or not the president will come to the party and bring some sense of stability. He then said that the president cannot preside on local government issues. In fact, he said that if the president does that, he will be acting outside of his jurisdiction. So it's quite confusing now, because people are dying. We don't want this to spill over to other provinces. I guess this was the right time for the president to actually, come to the party and make sure that really stop the spread of this cholera outbreak. And
we know at least 37 people have been admitted. They're in critical conditions. How are hospitals coping with this challenge, especially with the country trying to cope with power cuts and all of it? How are hospitals taking this?
Well, for now, the number has now gone up to 67. 67 people are now admitted in different hospitals in and around the province. But for now, it would seem like the health sector is coping, because it's really not a lot of people. We've got a lot of hospitals here in Tshwane, but if this thing spill over, if it now becomes a problem, this could very well be that we'll have the issue that we had during COVID-19, where we'd have to now source nurses from the private sector to come and help the public sector. But for now, it would seem like things are in order. They can still handle this number of people. So because the issue now is around Gauteng. So, but there's one case in Limpopo province, Hammanskraal and Limpopo province, just next to each other. So there's just just one case there. So for now, the hospitals are coping. It's just that with the challenges of power cuts, it becomes a little bit difficult. Hence, they had to move some of the patients from the Jubilee District Hospital to, national hospitals in and around the province.
All right, thank you very much, Innocent Samosa, our South Africa correspondent. Thank you for your time on The World Today.
Thank you, Anne.
Welcome back. Let's head to Canada now, where raging wildfires have burned through over 1 million hectares in Alberta, with Australia and New Zealand set to send assistance to tame the blazes. Christy Tucker of Alberta Wildfires said the 1 million hectare mark is a significant jump from 459 hectares that were burned in 2022. Over 2,800 firefighters from Canada and the United States have been battling wildfires in Alberta.
There are 71 wildfires in the forest protection area of Alberta. 20 of those are out of control. So far this year, we've responded to 520 wildfires, burning more than 1,017,000 hectares. Today, we've seen a continuation of the showers that started in the province yesterday and the lower fire behavior that resulted from that. Many of the major wildfires burning received some rain, which means these are good days for firefighters to make real progress on containing these fires. There are 1,123 firefighters from across Canada and the United States assisting nearly 1,700 from Alberta Wildfire on these fires. We're working closely with the municipal fire departments who are also protecting their own communities. Even though we have made headway on many wildfires on the landscape, we know that the season is far from over. We need to be prepared. We're continuing to bring in assistance from outside the province, including a team from Parks Canada arriving today and 96 firefighters from the US arriving tomorrow. Towards the end of the week, we're expecting additional help from New Zealand and Australia.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to launch his bid for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination and is widely predicted to become former U.S. President Donald Trump's main rival. Earlier, his wife, Cassie DeSantis, posted a video ad featuring her husband's unexpected announcement. His political team confirmed that he will make the announcement on Twitter during a discussion with Twitter CEO Elon Musk. At the same time, will file a document with the Federal Election Commission declaring his candidacy. DeSantis was re-elected as Florida governor handily to a second term in November last year. His rising profile among Republicans and fundraising prowess likely made him the biggest threat to Trump's hopes of becoming the Republican nominee for the White House again. Britain's stubbornly high inflation rate fell by less than expected last month, and a closely watched measure of core price rises surged to 31-year high. That's according to official data that raised the chances of more interest rate hikes. Consumer prices rose by 8.7% in annual terms in the month of April, down from 10.1% in March, but still leaving Britain with the joint highest rate of inflation among the group of 7 advanced economies alongside Italy.
Whilst it is welcome that the headline rate of inflation has fallen, these numbers show there is absolutely no room for complacency in the battle against inflation. Food price inflation is still worryingly high. That's why we've had food producers, farmers in supermarkets in to talk about what we can do to reduce the pressure there. And whilst yesterday we had a decisive vote of confidence in the management of the UK economy from the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, we now know that we have to stick to the plan to bring down inflation, because that is causing enormous pressure on families up and down the country.
Well, let's take you to Sudan, where a 7-day ceasefire has brought a long-awaited quietness to local residents from the heavy fighting in the Sudanese capital. Even though sporadic artillery fire could still be heard in parts of Khartoum and Omdurman, cities in Sudan appear to be generally at peace. The agreement, which entered into force at 9:45 p.m. local time, was reached at talks in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, after 5 weeks of fierce battles between the Sudanese armed forces and the RSF. Mediators appealed for withdrawal of forces from hospitals, resumption of service and public facilities, and the facilitation of humanitarian assistance and commodities for those in need. Also, most shops in downtown Khartoum remained closed. Several cars passed through the streets only once in a while, and few people could be seen outside. Meanwhile, Chad has allocated more land for the relocation of refugees as it grapples with a growing humanitarian crisis triggered by the conflict in Sudan. The city of Borota, one of the main border crossing points, has seen an unprecedented number of Sudanese refugees in recent weeks. At least 25,000 refugees gathered in one informal settlement camp. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees says that this number has grown in just 1 week. And finally, on the world today, a watch that was once owned by the last emperor of China, Ding Dynasty, whose life formed the basis of the Oscar-winning film The Last Emperor, sold for a record $6.2 million at a Hong Kong auction. According to the auction house, an Asian collector residing in Hong Kong in the phone bought the rare Patek Philippe watch, which had belonged to Asian Guerrero Puyi. After 6 minutes of spirited bidding, the hammer price, which excludes the buyer's premium fee, $5.1 million. Thomas Perazzi, head of watches at auction house Philips Asia, said it is the highest result for any wristwatch that once belonged to an emperor.
We have achieved 3 world records. The highest result for any Patek Philippe reference 96, the highest result for any wristwatch belonging to an emperor, and it is the highest result for any watches that Philips Asia ever sold. I'm absolutely thrilled about this auction. After 3 years of hard work and researchers, we come up with a beautiful evening with outstanding results.
A real outstanding result. Well, with that, we end the world today. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu.